Back to our daily segment of Michelle Obama's terrible, terrible life. Boo effing who.
She's constantly like hitting that wound of like, are we divorcing? Don't be gossiping about us. You know, I'm just trying to be an independent woman over here.
She's still just as bitter as ever. There's such a great new spin of complaints here. Michelle Obama, listen to this.
And at this phase of my life, I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning.
Bringing me down. I'm trying to elevate myself with like these things on my head.
It looks like Mickey Mouse.
It's so
like
weird.
The two ears up there, these two big balls.
Once hailed as the modern-day icon of grace, strength, and relatability, Michelle Obama has quietly shifted into something else entirely. The First Lady, who once danced with Ellen, side-eyed with purpose, and served up kale with a smile, is now running a full-blown brand empire that looks nothing like the woman America thought it knew.
This is where, Michelle Obama is kind of full of it. And you know this is true. When Biden announced he was resigning via fax, nothing weird about it, okay? Obama tweeted that they were looking forward to an open primary where they'd pick a nominee.
In her latest podcast appearances, her message hasn't been one of uplift, but of exhaustion. Exhausted by the weight of expectations, exhausted by marriage, exhausted by the spotlight. But the real shock? She's said it all before. Again and again. The same tired lines about being tired. The same curated complaints dressed up as deep wisdom, delivered with the polish of a TED Talk and the timing of a product launch. And while most celebrities are content with the usual merch drops and wellness posts, Michelle has taken things to another level. One where self-help meets self-promotion and every quote comes with a price tag. So, what happened?
She's constantly like hitting that wound of like, are we divorcing? Don't be gossiping about us. You know, I'm just trying to be an independent woman over here.
How did Michelle Obama go from a universally admired figure to someone many now describe as disconnected, performative, and relentlessly self-branded? Well, it didn't happen overnight. But once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Michelle Obama was once the embodiment of effortless charm. She wore cardigans instead of couture, talked about vegetables like they were a spiritual calling, and gave side eyes that launched 1,000 memes. Her image was meticulously crafted to appear relatable, America's cool mom who just happened to live in the White House. But look a little closer, and that down-to-earth image starts to crack. Because behind the kale chips and Pinterest perfect lunch campaigns was a marketing machine in motion. She wasn't just talking about eating healthy. She was packaging it. Her message wasn't just, get fit. It was, get fit like me, complete with inspirational slogans, speaking tours, and eventually, her own media empire.
With my family intact, I'm an empty nester. My girls are in, they've been launched. And now for the first time, as I've said before, every choice that I'm making is completely mine.
It wasn't about simply setting an example. It was about setting a tone, a lifestyle, a brand that spoke of modesty while being photographed boarding private jets en route to celebrity brunches. That preached balance while promoting her own line of merch to help you find yours. What began as a fresh voice in public life slowly evolved into something far more calculated. The kale wasn't just kale. It was a symbol. The cardigans weren't casual. They were curated. And the persona wasn't accidental. It was professional. But the transformation didn't stop at image. It went deeper, into everything she touched next. As her public persona evolved, Michelle Obama began to blur the line between authenticity and aspiration. The once grounded image of a woman juggling motherhood and public duty started to morph into something more polished, almost too polished.
Back to our daily segment of Michelle Obama's terrible, terrible life. Boo effing who.
Her every move, from Instagram posts to speaking tours, became another page in a perfectly styled lookbook of elite lifestyle branding. She wasn't just talking to everyday people anymore. She was marketing to them. Behind the motivational slogans were $50 journals, limited edition hoodies, and Netflix specials that felt less like documentaries and more like brand expansions. A message? You too can be empowered if you buy into the lifestyle. Literally. It wasn't just about leading by example, it was about being the example. And yet, the more she spoke, the less people seemed to feel connected. The healthy eating crusader turned into a luxury label ambassador. The self-help guru launched a podcast that often came off like a self-congratulatory monologue wrapped in product placement.
It just doesn't feel organic at all.
It reads
same photo. They both posted the exact same photo. So clearly staffers put all of this together.
The real kicker? All of this was delivered with the same rehearsed humility, the same filtered lighting, the same tone of quiet superiority. It left people wondering, was she still trying to inspire or just trying to sell the idea of herself? And it all came to a head with one podcast interview that shattered the illusion. When Michelle Obama appeared on the Diary of a CEO podcast, many expected a refreshing conversation. What they got instead felt like a greatest hits album of grievances, repackaged, repolished, and rebranded as insight. From marriage struggles to the hardships of public life, she painted a picture of constant emotional labor, missed appreciation, and invisible sacrifices. But to some listeners, it didn't feel like vulnerability. It felt like performance. This wasn't the first time Michelle opened up about resenting her role or expressing disillusionment. But in this setting, surrounded by luxury, production, and softly lit staging, her words landed differently. The message wasn't, "You're not alone." It was, "You don't understand how hard it is to be me." And with each complaint, the gap between audience and speaker widened. She spoke of marital challenges, but with undertones that made Barack sound like a distant coworker rather than a partner.
Publicly, which leads me to Michelle Obama. Every day she's dropped another negativity bomb on us, whether on her podcast or on someone else's. I mean, this audience knows she never says anything positive.
She described public service like a cage she had to endure, not a platform she once claimed as purpose. And as always, she wrapped these stories in elegant phrasing and poised delivery, never missing a beat, never letting the mask slip. For many, it raised the question, is this a genuine voice seeking connection, or just another calculated installment in the Michelle Obama lifestyle franchise? And the more she spoke, the more obvious it became. This wasn't just about her story. It was about selling the brand. Somewhere along the line, Michelle Obama stopped being a symbol of public service and became a walking TED Talk wrapped in high-end branding. Her book tours feel like arena concerts, complete with pyrotechnics, VIP ticket tiers, and motivational one-liners projected onto jumbotrons. She doesn't just give speeches, she gives performances. With stadium lighting, luxury fashion, and enough polish to rival a pop star, the message isn't, "You can do it too," it's, "Watch me do it better." Her merchandise empire reinforces that. Journals, hoodies, candles, even curated playlists. Each item infused with soft inspiration and hard price tags. It's wellness, empowerment, and lifestyle, all bundled into a marketable identity.
Often we just accept that money, power, and privilege are perfectly justifiable forms of affirmative action, while kids growing up like I did are expected to compete when the ground is anything but level.
But while the packaging screams purpose, the delivery often feels hollow. These aren't tools for personal growth. They're souvenirs from the cult of personality. Her authenticity, once a powerful connection to everyday people, now feels like a limited edition drop, available for a short time while supplies last. Even her relatable moments seem rehearsed. There's always a perfect quote, always a branded angle, always a photo-ready smile framed by designer lighting. It's not that she's insincere. It's that sincerity itself has become part of the production. And as the empire grew, so did the cracks in the story, especially when it came to her relationship at the heart of it all. For someone who once represented unity, stability, and the gold standard of modern marriage, Michelle Obama has spent an unusual amount of time publicly unpacking how hard it is to be with her husband. Over and over again, she shared that she couldn't stand Barack for a decade, that marriage was a struggle, and that being in the White House strained everything. At first, it seemed like honesty, but after a while, it started sounding like something else, like resentment dressed up as reflection. Her stories often portray Barack as emotionally unavailable, aloof, or indifferent, never malicious, but never exactly supportive either. The subtext? She carried the weight. She made the sacrifices. She put in the work. And now, she wants the credit.
She's angry. She's angry and unhappy. I've watched enough of her over the years, and then with this ridiculous podcast she's trying to launch, to see she's a deeply unhappy person.
But that ongoing narrative has left some people confused. Why spend so much time emphasizing what wasn't working without ever celebrating what was? It's not that relationships don't go through hard seasons, but in Michelle's retelling, the seasons sound more like decades, and the support she claims to have given doesn't seem to have been returned in kind. Her anecdotes, far from inspiring, land more like subtle digs, almost as if she's still trying to prove that her role, her effort, her pain should be front and center. And for a brand built on empowerment, this recurring theme sends mixed signals. But the contradictions didn't end with her personal life. They spilled into her public image too. Michelle Obama's initiatives have always come wrapped in noble intentions: healthy school lunches, support for girls' education, and messages about finding your voice. But somewhere along the way, those causes began to look less like missions and more like marketing campaigns. Every charitable push seems to arrive with a matching product drop: a new hoodie, a limited edition bookmark, a Spotify playlist, or a branded journal filled with inspirational quotes, many of which sound eerily similar to past speeches. Her Netflix deals, packaged like community service, delivered like high-end content marketing. Her motivational talks, laced with personal anecdotes, but always followed by a polished CTA, call to action, and not for change, but for checkout.
Walked the face of the earth, then left to write her best-selling memoir for which she was paid millions, then signed a Netflix deal for which she was paid millions, is giving speeches for which she's getting paid almost $1 million per speech.
The effect is a polished performance of purpose, where every good deed is conveniently paired with a monetizable asset. And yet, she never claims to be selling anything. That's the genius of the operation. It all appears selfless, but fans aren't blind. The relatable First Lady now has a private glam squad, stylists, product managers, and a merch team that rivals fashion startups. Her brand has scaled far beyond influence. It's a full-fledged lifestyle economy. She isn't just doing good, she's doing good business. And while she builds her empire, the public's reaction has begun to shift fast. The more curated Michelle Obama's brand becomes, the more divided the audience grows. Her most loyal fans still treat her like a cultural icon, graceful, wise, untouchable. But a growing number of viewers, listeners, and social media voices are starting to call out the disconnect. TikToks mocking her podcast clips rack up millions of views. Meme accounts break down her speeches line by line, highlighting the self-pity disguised as insight. Even former admirers are asking, when did this stop being inspiring and start being indulgent? The shift isn't just happening online. It's visible in her press, in podcast reviews, in the sharp drop-off of real excitement around her content. What used to feel fresh now comes off as formulaic. Even when she's talking about struggle, it sounds like a monologue rehearsed in front of a mirror framed with soft lighting and motivational sticky notes. And that authenticity she was once praised for, it's now being questioned more than ever. It's not the message that's the problem, it's the delivery. People are tired of being preached to by someone whose life has become a high-gloss highlight reel. The image of the grounded First Lady is now clashing with the reality of a billionaire branding machine. And the result? A growing gap between Michelle and the audience she once had firmly in her corner. Which leaves us with one final question. Who is the real Michelle Obama now? Michelle Obama was once a symbol of balance, public service, family, humility, inspiration. But over time, that image has been redefined, repackaged, and resold. The relatable mom from the south side of Chicago now vacations on yachts, tours with rock star production budgets, and sells motivation like it's luxury skincare. She tells stories of struggle while dressed in couture. She urges authenticity while surrounded by stylists. And she delivers life advice that often feels more like a sales pitch than a personal truth. Her message used to be, you can do it too. Now it sounds more like, watch me do it better. And while the world she built is undeniably impressive, it also raises a very real question. Can someone still be relatable once they've become a brand? Michelle Obama has created a lifestyle empire built on curated empowerment, perfectly timed vulnerability, and high production storytelling. But in the process, the very thing that made people love her, the feeling that she was one of us, has slowly slipped away. She's still inspiring to many, but to others, she's no longer a symbol of grounded hope. She's a reminder of how quickly purpose can become performance. So, what do you think? Has Michelle Obama evolved into something bigger than a role model? Or has she simply become a mirror, reflecting what the world now expects from its icons? Let us know in the comments.